What he saw was unremarkable. A working man in his mid-30s, paint on his clothes, calluses on his palms. Nothing threatening. He saw wrong. What happened next took exactly 15 seconds. Callum moved with fluid precision, crossing the distance between tables in 3 steps. His hand shot out, grabbed the leader's wrist, and twisted with surgical accuracy. The crack of bone echoed through the restaurant. Before the man hit the ground, Callum had already pivoted, driving an elbow into the second attacker's solar plexus. The third reached for something inside his jacket, but Callum was faster, clamping down on the man's wrist with enough force to make him drop whatever he had been reaching for. 3 men, 15 seconds, all of them on the floor. The restaurant remained frozen in shocked silence. Only one sound continued uninterrupted, the soft scratch of crayon against paper. "My daddy was in the Navy," Ren announced to the room, still focused on her coloring. "He catches bad guys, like superheroes, but real." She added a star to her seahorse drawing, completely unbothered by the violence that had just unfolded. Callum straightened his work shirt and walked back to table 6 as if nothing had happened. He picked up his knife and resumed cutting pizza into triangles, but his eyes never left the 3 men as they struggled to their feet and limped toward the exit. The woman they had been threatening remained in her booth, her coffee cup rattling against its saucer as her hand shook. She stared at Callum with an expression that mixed gratitude with something else. Recognition, perhaps, or calculation. The leader paused at the door, cradling his broken wrist. "This isn't over," he snarled. Callum did not look up from the pizza. "Yes, it is." The police came and went. The security cameras had mysteriously malfunctioned during the crucial 15 seconds. Witnesses described Callum as a concerned citizen who had intervened when he saw someone being threatened. Nothing more. When the restaurant finally returned to something resembling normal, the woman approached table 6. Up close, she was younger than Callum had initially thought. Early 30s, maybe. Professional clothes that had seen better days. A leather messenger bag worn soft from years of use. Dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. Everything about her suggested someone who had chosen substance over style. "Thank you," she said, her voice steadier than her hands. "But you just made yourself a target." "I've been a target before, in worse places than Iowa." She studied him with sharp eyes. "You move like military, special forces, SEAL?" Callum said nothing. Ren looked up from her coloring book, examining the stranger with the unsettling directness children possess. "Do you like to draw? I like to draw. My mom liked to draw too. Daddy says she was the best artist in the whole world." Something softened in the woman's face. "I used to draw, before I forgot how." "Sad people forget the things that make them happy," Ren said, her tone carrying a weight far beyond her 8 years. "You should draw again. I can teach you." The woman blinked rapidly, caught off guard by the child's perception. "I'm Marin," she said finally, sliding into the booth across from them. "Marin Calloway." Callum's hand stopped halfway to his water glass. Calloway. The name hit him like a physical blow, dragging up memories he had spent 4 years trying to bury. "Captain Reed Calloway," Marin continued, watching his reaction carefully. "You knew him. He was my commanding officer in Afghanistan. He was my father." The restaurant noise faded to a distant hum. Callum could hear his own heartbeat, could feel the weight of dog tags beneath his shirt. Tags he had worn every day for 4 years. "Your father saved my life," he said quietly. "He pushed me out of the path of a bullet and took it himself." "I know," Marin's voice hardened. "What I want to know is why his body armor failed. Why $30,000 worth of military-grade protection crumpled like tissue paper." Callum closed his eyes. He remembered the moment with perfect clarity, the crack of the sniper rifle, Captain Calloway shoving him aside, the horrible wet sound as the bullet passed through armor that should have stopped it. Someone sold defective equipment to the military, Marin continued. My father died because someone chose profit over protection, and I'm going to prove it. That's why those men were threatening you. Dominic Ashford, CEO of Ashford Defense Technologies. He's responsible for at least 47 deaths from armor failure alone. Another 189 from what they're calling unexplained medical complications. Marin leaned forward, intensity burning in her eyes. My father started investigating before he died. He was getting close to something big, something called Project Ares. Wren set down her crayon and looked at Marin with that too-old gaze. You're like my mom, she announced. How so? Your eyes are wet, but you're not crying. Mommy was like that when she was sick, strong on the outside, lonely on the inside. Marin turned away, blinking hard. When was the last time anyone had truly seen her? Not the lawyer, not the grieving daughter, just her. Those men will come back, Callum said. Do you have somewhere safe to go? No one I can trust. He looked at his daughter, then at Marin. Two females watching him, waiting. One 8 years old, one 32. Both needing protection in different ways. Your father saved my life, Callum said finally. I've worn his dog tags every day for 4 years, wondering how I could ever repay that debt. He stood, pulling out his wallet to pay the check. I think I just found my answer. Marin's safe house was a converted farmhouse 10 miles outside Oak Ridge. Her grandparents' old place, she explained. Good sightlines, security cameras, motion sensors. She had learned from her father. Wren fell asleep in the car but woke when they arrived, immediately fascinated by the old house with its wraparound porch and wildflower garden going to seed. This looks like a fairy tale house, she declared. The good kind, not the scary kind. Inside, the house was warm despite the late hour. Comfortable furniture, bookshelves lined with law texts and military histories, a kitchen that smelled faintly of coffee and old memories. Wren explored with the boundless energy of childhood, opening doors and peering around corners. When she found the art room, her gasp of delight echoed through the house. Daddy, come look. The room had clearly been untouched for years. Easels stood like silent sentinels, draped in dust cloths. Canvas frames leaned against walls. Hundreds of paint tubes lined wooden shelves, organized by color in a rainbow of possibilities. This was yours? Wren asked Marin, who had followed the sound of excitement. A long time ago, before you forgot how to be happy? Marin nodded, unable to speak. Wren reached out and took her hand, small fingers wrapping around larger ones. Paint with me, I'll help you remember. An hour later, Callum stood in the doorway, watching his daughter teach a grown woman how to mix colors. Wren had assumed the role of instructor with complete seriousness, demonstrating technique, while Marin listened as if receiving wisdom from a master. No, Marin, this blue needs more white. Like this, see? Marin laughed. A real laugh, genuine and surprised, as if she had forgotten she was capable of the sound. Something shifted in Callum's chest, a warmth he thought had died with Linnea. After Wren finally succumbed to exhaustion, falling asleep on a paint-stained couch with her seahorse drawing clutched to her chest, Callum and Marin retreated to the study. The laptop screen cast blue light across their faces as Marin pulled up files. Dominic Ashford, she said, clicking through photographs. 58 years old, $30 million mansion outside D.C., connections to both political parties, defense contracts worth billions. How many people has he killed? 47 confirmed from direct armor failure, 189 from medical complications within 2 years of exposure. Marin's jaw tightened. My father was number 47. Callum remembered his fallen teammates, Martinez, Rodriguez, Patel, their body armor crumpling like paper when it should have held. Your father discovered this? He started noticing patterns in casualty reports. Too many unexplained deaths. He was building a case. Marin produced a USB drive. Then he died. The official investigation was shut down. All his files were classified or destroyed. But you have copies. My father was paranoid about security. He kept backups in places no one thought to look. She plugged the drive into her laptop. It took me 6 months to find them and crack the encryption. What did you find? Marin opened a file and pointed to a single highlighted phrase, Project Ares. This is what my father was really investigating. This is what got him killed. The coffee shop in Cedar Rapids was nearly empty at 10 in the morning. Dr. Elaine Whitmore sat in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a cup she had not touched. She looked like she had not slept in weeks. "They're watching me," she whispered as Marin and Callum slid into the booth across from her. "Ever since I resigned, they know I took files." "What can you tell us about Project Ares?" Marin asked. Dr. Whitmore's eyes darted to the door, then back. It wasn't a defect. The armor was designed to fail. Designed? The material contains chemical compounds. When exposed to combat conditions, heat, sweat, stress, they break down and absorb through the skin. Her voice dropped even lower. Short-term effects include enhanced strength, reduced pain sensitivity, increased alertness. Soldiers reported feeling invincible. And long-term? Organ failure, neurological damage, cancer. Dr. Whitmore's hands shook as she pushed a USB drive across the table. Ashford knew from the beginning, they weren't making body armor. They were conducting human experiments. Before she could say more, her gaze fixed on something behind Callum. The color drained from her face. "I have to go." She stood abruptly, knocking over her coffee cup. "Don't contact me again. They'll kill both of you." She rushed toward the exit. A man rose from the counter and followed. Forgettable face, expensive but understated clothes, the smooth movement of a professional killer. Callum started to stand, but Marin grabbed his arm. "We need to follow her." They were too late. Dr. Whitmore's apartment looked like a suicide. Pill bottle on the nightstand, vodka on the floor, her body arranged peacefully on the bed. But Callum saw what civilian eyes would miss. Fresh scratches on the door lock. Items on the dresser arranged too neatly. The closet door slightly ajar. "Stage," he said. "Professional work within the last hour." Marin leaned against the doorframe, face pale. "They killed her because she talked to us." Under the bed, Callum found a slip of paper. Dr. Whitmore had prepared for the worst. "The truth doesn't die with the messenger. Find Project Ares. Coordinates, 41.7 degree, 91.5 degree Ranamyu." The coordinates led to an abandoned grain silo 20 miles from the city. Inside, beneath a section of newer concrete, they found a safe. The combination was Captain Calloway's birthday. Inside, a laptop, multiple USB drives, and an envelope marked insurance. The video on the laptop showed Dr. Whitmore's face, exhausted but determined. "If you're watching this, I'm dead." Project Ares was never about protection. The armor contains specialized chemical compounds. When exposed to combat conditions, they absorb through the skin. Short-term, enhanced performance. Soldiers feel stronger, faster, invincible. But the long-term effects are catastrophic. Organ failure, neurological damage, cancer. Ashford knew from the beginning, this wasn't a defect. It was a weapons development program disguised as protective equipment. They've already exposed 3,200 soldiers, and they're planning to deploy the next generation next month. The video ended. Callum stared at the blank screen, fury building in his chest like a storm. "Captain Calloway didn't just die from defective armor," he said slowly. "Ashford deliberately killed him." Marin's composure finally cracked. She leaned into Callum's shoulder, allowing herself to be weak for the first time in months. He held her, said nothing. Some wounds had no words. They returned to the farmhouse to find a familiar truck in the driveway. Callum recognized the man who stepped out before he saw his face. "Colton Mercer," he said flatly. "Been a long time." "Not long enough, apparently." Colton tossed a small device onto the ground between them. "Military-grade tracker, under the lawyer's car. Same kind we used in Afghanistan." "How do I know you didn't plant it yourself?" "Because I'm the one who found it." Colton's expression was unreadable. "They know where you are, Callum. Ashford's people. They're coming." In the files from Dr. Whitmore's safe, Marin had found a document about Colton, payments from a shell company connected to Ashford Defense, starting 6 months before the ambush that killed Captain Calloway. "You work for Ashford," Callum said. "You knew about the armor. You let our team walk into a slaughter." Colton did not deny it. "It's more complicated than you think." Headlights swept across the farmhouse windows, multiple vehicles approaching fast. "Ashford's assault team," Colton said. "They followed the tracker. Back door. Now." "Why should I trust you?" Colton drew his weapon, but instead of pointing it at Callum, he turned and fired at a shadow moving outside the window. A body fell. "Because I just shot one of Ashford's men to save your life? Now run." Callum scooped up a sleepy wren and grabbed Marin's hand. They fled through the back as gunfire erupted behind them. The phone call came while they were driving through dark country roads, headlights off, navigating by moonlight. "Mr. Weston," the voice was cultured, confident. "My name is Dominic Ashford. I believe we have something to discuss." "I have nothing to say to you. Perhaps not to me, but I think you'll want to speak with someone else." A small voice came through the speaker, trembling, terrified. "Daddy, I'm scared. Mrs. Pemberton won't wake up." The world stopped. "Where is my daughter?" "Safe, for now." Ashford's tone remained pleasant. "You will bring Ms. Calloway and all evidence related to Project Ares to an address I'm about to send. You will come alone, unarmed. You have 2 hours. If you touch her..." "Empty threats serve no one, Mr. Weston. 2 hours. Don't be late." The line went dead. A text arrived with an address. Marin watched Callum's face transform. The easygoing father disappeared. In his place was someone harder, colder, dangerous. "It's a trap," she said. "I know. We can't just give him the evidence. It's the only thing that can bring him down." Callum turned to look at her. His eyes were flat, empty of everything except purpose. "They have my daughter." Diego Navarro answered on the first ring. "Callum, been wondering when you'd call. Ashford has Wren." Silence, then, "Where do you need me?" "I need backup. People who have a reason to hate Ashford." "Brother, I've got a list. Give me 30 minutes. Diego had survived the ambush in Afghanistan. The defective armor had failed, but he had lived, though with permanent damage. 60% lung function, a scar running from sternum to hip, and a burning desire for justice that had never faded. He arrived at the rendezvous point with 4 others, all former military, all victims or family members of victims. None of them wore uniforms anymore, but they still moved like soldiers. "The warehouse," Diego said, studying aerial photos on a tablet. "Isolated, 1 main entrance, 2 secondary, easy to defend." "Or easy to surround," Callum replied. "If we have enough people." "We have enough anger, that'll do." The warehouse loomed against the night sky like a sleeping giant. Industrial, abandoned, perfect for Ashford's purposes. Callum walked in through the front entrance, hands raised exactly as instructed. Marin followed, carrying the backpack filled with evidence. Inside, darkness and abandoned machinery created a maze of shadows. Light spilled down from the second floor, illuminating a metal staircase and the figures waiting at its top. Dominic Ashford looked exactly like his photographs. Silver hair, expensive suit, the confidence of a man who had never been told no. Beside him stood a man with forgettable features and empty eyes. The Spectre, the killer who had murdered Dr. Whitmore. And in a chair, hands bound, face tear-streaked but defiant, sat Wren. "Daddy, I'm here, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay." Callum assessed the situation as he climbed the stairs. 6 guards on the ground floor, 2 on the upper level plus Ashford and the Spectre. Diego and his team waiting outside for the signal. Ashford examined the evidence in the backpack, nodded with satisfaction. "Excellent. The child can go." He gestured to a guard. "But you and Ms. Calloway will be staying. We have matters to discuss regarding your future silence." "That wasn't the deal. The deal was your daughter goes home safely. She will." Ashford smiled coldly. "Just not with you." The lights went out. Stun grenades exploded at the main entrance. Diego's team breached from multiple points. In the chaos, Callum moved like a ghost. 2 guards down before they could react. A third stumbled into his path and crumpled from a strike to the throat. He reached the upper level. The Spectre blocked his path. "You think you can beat me?" The killer's voice was flat, emotionless. "I don't need to beat you. I just need to last long enough." They fought in the strobing darkness. Fast, brutal, technique against technique. The Spectre was good, maybe better than Callum. But Callum had something the killer lacked, a reason to win. A gunshot rang out. The Spectre staggered, fell. Colton Mercer stood behind him, weapon still raised. "Get your daughter. I'll handle Ashford." Callum cut Wren's bonds and swept her into his arms. She clung to his neck, trembling. "I was brave, Daddy, like you taught me. I didn't cry." "You're the bravest person I know, sweetheart." Below, federal agents in tactical gear flooded the warehouse. DCIS emblazoned on their vests. Colton stood among them, not as a prisoner, but as one of their own. 3 years undercover, he explained when Callum descended with Wren. Defense Criminal Investigative Service. "I've been building a case against Ashford from the inside." "You let our team die?" "I didn't know about the ambush. The payment records were DCIS cover, not Ashford's money." Pain flickered in Colton's eyes. "When I found out what they did to our unit, to Captain Calloway, I swore I'd bring them all down. Whatever it took." Ashford, handcuffs gleaming on his wrists, still managed to smile. "You think this ends anything? I'm one node in a network that spans governments and corporations. Cut me off and 2 more will take my place." Callum walked over to face him directly, Wren still in his arms, watching with those 2 wise eyes. "Maybe, but today you go to prison for Captain Calloway, for Dr. Whitmore, for 236 people whose lives you destroyed." Marin appeared at his side, her hand resting on his back. "For my father," she added. They watched as federal agents led Ashford away, his empire crumbling around him. 6 months later, Callum sat in a federal courtroom as the judge delivered the verdict. Multiple counts of treason, murder, illegal human experimentation, conspiracy, multiple life sentences, no possibility of parole. The investigation had expanded far beyond Ashford himself. Pentagon officials arrested, congressional hearings launched, Project Ares officially terminated. 3,200 exposed soldiers identified and receiving treatment. The system had worked, slowly, imperfectly, but it had worked. Marin sat beside Callum, her hand finding his as the sentence was read. Neither pulled away. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for statements. Marin handled them with practiced ease while Callum stood back, unused to attention, uncomfortable with recognition. "Is it over?" he asked when they finally escaped to a quiet corner. "This part," Marin squeezed his hand. "But the work of preventing the next Project Ares never really ends." "Then we keep working." She looked at him. "We?" He smiled. The first genuine smile in 3 years that didn't have pain hiding behind it. I like the way that sounds. Bellini's Family Restaurant. Friday night, 6 months after the trial. Table 6, same position. Back to the wall. Clear view of both exits. But this time, there were 3 people. Wren sat in the middle, crayons spread across the paper tablecloth. Her fingers were stained with pastels now, not just crayons. She had been taking real art lessons from Maren. "What are you drawing, sweetheart?" Wren held up her paper. 3 figures holding hands. A sun overhead, a house with a red roof in the background. "My family," she said simply. Maren looked at the drawing, eyes glistening. "Wren," she asked softly, "would you mind if I stayed? For good?" Wren tilted her head, regarding Maren with that gaze that saw too much. "You know what? When Mommy's flower vase broke, I was really sad. Daddy said we couldn't glue it back together the same way. But then he helped me take the broken pieces and make a new picture." She touched the small mosaic pendant hanging around her neck. Blue ceramic shards from Linnea's favorite vase, arranged into something new. Broken pieces can't become what they used to be, but they can become something new. And sometimes the new thing is even more beautiful. Callum reached under the table and took Maren's hand. She held on tight. "I love you more than all the stars in the sky," he said to Wren, their old ritual. "I love you more than all the sand on the beach." Wren looked at Maren expectantly, waiting. Maren understood. This was the test. This was the invitation. "I love you more than all the colors in the world," she said, voice trembling slightly. Wren's face broke into a radiant smile, the same smile her mother used to have. "Now we're a family." Outside the window, the sun was setting over Oak Ridge, painting the small town in shades of gold and amber. Inside Bellini's, the Friday night crowd laughed and talked and lived their ordinary lives. But for the 3 people at table 6, ordinary was the most extraordinary thing of all. They had found each other. They had found home. And sometimes, that is all anyone truly needs. Callum looked at Maren across the table. She looked back. No words necessary. 3 years ago, he had walked into this restaurant a broken man, going through the motions of living without actually being alive. He had thought his story was over, that the best parts had already been written. He was wrong. Some chapters end in tragedy, but that doesn't mean the book is finished. Sometimes the most beautiful stories are written by people who refuse to stop turning pages, who kept reading even when the words blurred with tears, who believed that somewhere ahead there was a passage worth waiting for. This was that passage. A father who learned that strength meant knowing when to ask for help. A woman who discovered that justice and healing could walk the same road. A child wise enough to see what adults often missed. 3 broken people who found that together, they could become whole. "Daddy!" Wren's voice pulled him back to the present. "Yes, sweetheart. Can we come here every Friday, forever?" Callum smiled. Maren smiled. Even the memory of Linnea seemed to smile. "Forever," he promised, and he meant it. The candles on the table flickered as night settled over Oak Ridge. Wren had fallen asleep against Maren's shoulder, exhausted from the excitement of the day. Crayon drawings scattered across the table told stories of seahorses and stars and families made whole. Callum watched them in the soft light. His daughter, and the woman who had somehow become essential without him noticing when it happened. 4 years ago, Captain Reed Calloway had died pushing Callum out of the path of a bullet. 4 years ago, Callum had made a silent promise to a dying man, a promise he had carried like a weight every day since. Now, looking at Maren and Wren, he understood what that promise really meant. Not revenge, not justice, though justice mattered. It meant living, fully, completely. It meant letting go of survivor's guilt long enough to build something worth surviving for. Captain Calloway had given his life so that Callum could have this moment, this second chance, this family. The debt was not something to be repaid, it was something to be honored. By living well, by loving deeply, by protecting fiercely, by being the kind of father, the kind of man that made the sacrifice worthwhile. Callum reached across the table and gently brushed a strand of hair from Marin's face. She opened her eyes, smiled sleepily. "Take us home?" she murmured. Home. The word had meant nothing for 3 years. An address, 4 walls, a place to sleep between nightmares. Now it meant everything. "Yeah," Callum said softly. "Let's go home." He gathered Wren into his arms, careful not to wake her. Marin collected the drawings, handling them as carefully as evidence in a trial, which in a way they were. Evidence that broken things could heal. Evidence that endings could become beginnings. Evidence that love, stubborn and persistent, could find its way through the darkest places. They walked out of Bellini's into the cool Iowa night. Stars scattered across the sky like promises waiting to be kept. Wren stirred slightly, mumbling in her sleep. "Love you, Daddy. Love you too, sweetheart. Love you, Marin." Marin's breath caught. It was the first time Wren had said it directly to her. "I love you too," she whispered back. They drove home through quiet streets, past sleeping houses and peaceful neighborhoods. The kind of normal, ordinary life that Callum had once thought was lost to him forever. At the farmhouse, he carried Wren to her room, tucked her in with her seahorse drawing on the nightstand. Marin stood in the doorway watching. "She's amazing," Marin said softly. "She's her mother's daughter." Callum smoothed Wren's hair back from her forehead. "Sees things other people miss, says things other people need to hear. She's your daughter too, that protective instinct, that quiet strength." They left the door slightly open, a nightlight glowing in the hallway, and walked together to the porch. The night was clear and cool, stars everywhere, the smell of wild grass and distant rain. "My father would have liked you," Marin said, leaning against the railing. "Not just because you're a good soldier, because you understand what really matters." "What really matters?" "Family, protection, the things worth fighting for." Callum moved to stand beside her. Their shoulders touched. Neither moved away. "I spent 3 years thinking my story was over," he said quietly. "That the best parts were behind me, that I was just going through the motions until what? I don't know. I never let myself think about it." He turned to face her. "Then you walked into Bellini's, and everything changed." "I walked into Bellini's to meet an informant. You're the one who decided to take on 3 armed men with your bare hands. They were threatening you. You didn't know me. I knew you needed help." He shrugged. "Sometimes that's enough." Marin reached up, touched his face. Her fingers were gentle, searching. "Is this enough?" she asked. "Whatever this is between us, it's more than enough. It's everything." She kissed him then, soft, careful, testing. He kissed her back, less careful, more certain. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing harder than the moment warranted. "I'm not easy," Marin warned. "I'm stubborn and obsessive, and I work too much, and I have nightmares about my father dying, and..." "Marin, what?" "I have a daughter who dispenses wisdom like a tiny philosopher, and I still have nightmares about Afghanistan, and I'm a plumber who used to kill people for a living." He smiled slightly. "I think we're both a mess. Complementary messes?" "Something like that." She laughed. That real laugh he had heard in the art room, surprised out of her. "So what happens now?" Callum looked out at the stars, at the field stretching toward the horizon, at the house where his daughter slept peacefully for the first time in days. "Now we go inside. We get some sleep. Tomorrow we wake up and have breakfast, and Wren will probably make us paint something before noon." "That doesn't sound very dramatic." "No, it sounds ordinary." He took her hand. "And after everything we've been through, ordinary sounds pretty perfect." They walked inside together, closing the door on the night. In her room, Wren smiled in her sleep, dreaming of seahorses and stars, and the family she had always known was coming, even when the grown-ups hadn't figured it out yet. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance across the Iowa sky, indifferent to human drama, unchanged by love or loss or the small triumphs of broken people learning to be whole. But if stars could witness, they might have noted something remarkable about that particular farmhouse on that particular night. The light in the window burned warm and steady, like a lighthouse, like a promise, like home.